To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. And I'll note for the record that all board members are present. Good morning.
Morning.
All right, we'll dive right into our agenda. And I move to approve the minutes from the May 19th, 2025 board meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The chair recognizes Mr. Brian Clary.
Morning.
Morning.
Brian Clary, Manager, Ballot Department. Before you should have a copy of the certification report and the official results from the May 6, 2025 primary special election. There were a total of 99,037 ballots cast in this election, and they break down as follows. We had 61,247 ballots cast on election day. There were 32,581 ballots cast by mail. 2,820 were cast early in person. 399 were cast provisionally. 3 ballots were cast post-election day. Those were all curbside. And then we had 1,987 ballots cast post-election day. That was anything returned, postmarked or returned within the 4-day window. Moving on to the vote by mail or in-person summary. There were a total of 43,856 ballots cast during the vote by mail and early person voting period. Of those ballots, 37,388 or 85.25% were returned and counted by the ballot department. There were a total of 457 challenged or late vote by mail or in-person ballots, resulting in a 1.21 challenge rate for this election. That challenge rate dropped to 0.21% when the voters return their ballot later. And below that, you have various charts depicting the individual categories for why the ballots were challenged, and then a pie chart representing those. So if you have any questions, I'll answer them now. Hearing none, we'll move on to the provisional voting summary. A total of 465 provisional ballots were cast during the election. Of those ballots cast, 399 or 85.8% were valid and tabulated by the ballot department. There were a total of 66 invalid provisional ballots, resulting in a 14.19% rejection rate for the election. That rejection rate dropped to 7.31% when you exclude anyone who's already cast a vote by mail ballot or were not registered for the election. And then below that, you have a breakdown of each of the categories in which the rejection falls. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have on that. Hearing none. We'll move on to the ballot remake section. During the election, 137 ballot pages were made in accordance with the adjudication policy approved by the board. The overall remake rate for this election, remake/adjudication, was 0.138%. If you exclude UOCAVAs and people who voted for an eligible contest, those are the polling or precinct provision, that rate drops to 0.113, and then you have a breakdown of the individual categories of what the adjudication or remakes fall into. There were 897 precincts involved in this election. Where history is complete, ballot reconciliation is still ongoing. There are no automatic recounts for this election. The requested recount deadline is Monday, June 2nd at 4 p.m. The post-election audit is currently scheduled upon the completion if there's any requested or automatic requested recounts. If there are no requested recounts, we will begin the audit on June 3rd at 9:30 a.m. at the Halley Warehouse. If there is a requested recount, if someone files before that deadline, we will then push that back because obviously there's a 5-day waiting period once they've request the recount for us to schedule the recount, and then we'll go from there. We will repost the time and date of the audit at that time. We will be auditing the following races. The state is requiring us to do issue 2. Then we're also doing issue 22, which is the Parma City School District, and then a re-award lead council race. We're going to audit that as well. We don't have any historical data for this one because there is no election to really compare it to. We can compare it to other August elections, something that there's nothing apples to apples, so we just excluded that so as not to put any. If you have any questions, I'll take them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Clary. Board members, any questions for Mr. Clary? Thank you for this report. All right, hearing none, I'll parse this motion. So I move to authorize A through C and to acknowledge D and E on our agenda. A through C, authorizations, D and E, acknowledgements. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. And then I move to certify the official results from the May 6, 2025 primary/special election.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then item 3, Mr. Clear, I believe you told us that we were
Yes.
having that on June the 3rd,
June 3rd at 9:38 at the Alley Warehouse.
barring anything on.
Or yeah, if there's a request for recount, we will post that online. We'll post the time and date of the recount, and then depending on the size and the scope of that recount, we will then repost our time and date. I don't anticipate there's anything, we haven't heard anything, but they've got 5 days.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
So I move to acknowledge the date, time, and place of the post-election audit for the May 6, 2025 primary/special election, June 3rd, 2025, 9:30 a.m. at the warehouse. Second by Justice Stewart. All right. Any unreadiness? All in favor, aye?
Right.
Aye, the ayes have it. It is so ordered. Thank you, Mr. Cleary. Now the candidate and petition services. I move to acknowledge the letter of intent to retire from elected office by Carrie B. Copper, City of North Olmsted, Director of Finance.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. And on to registration, Chair recognizes Mr. Hassani Wheat.
Morning.
Good morning.
Sonny Lee, Registration Manager. You should have before you a Form 257, Challenge of the Right to Vote and Correction of Registration List that was submitted by Joshua Watkins and received by the Board of Elections on May 9th, 2025. Mr. Watkins, a registered voter in Cuyahoga County, is challenging the voter residency of Jose Rivera. Mr. Watkins noted in his challenge that Mr. Rivera has not lived at 2208 West 37th Street since at least 2018. Mr. Watkins also noted that he has resided at 2208 West 37th Street since 2019. Per the Cuyahoga County's summary property report, Mr. Watkins has been the sole owner at 2208 West 37th Street since October 28th, 2021. The voter registration database shows that Jose Rivera has been registered at the 2208 West 37th Street address since December 15th, 2003. Mr. Rivera last voted from the 2208 West 37th Street address in the November 8th, 2016 presidential general election and has not had any voter activity since the November 2016 presidential general election.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wheat. Any questions for Mr. Wheat, board? All right, good. The chair recognizes Mr. Joshua Watkins. Is Joshua Watkins present online or an attorney representing him? Thank you. We'll note for the record that Mr. Watkins is not present, nor is an attorney representing him. Chair recognizes Jose Rivera. Is Jose Rivera present online, or is there an attorney here representing Mr. Rivera? Okay, we know for the record that Mr. Rivera is not present. Board, what is your pleasure?
Pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
I would move that Mr. Rivera be removed from voting at this address.
Okay,
And I'll second her motion.
all right, thank you. Okay, the motion is in order. It's been properly seconded. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, it is so ordered. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On to human resources. I move to approve the lateral transfer of Juanita Loper from the election official 2, election support department, to election official 2, absentee services department, effective June 2nd, 2025.
Okay.
Second by Mr. McCafferty, and this is Deputy Director, this is as we build out that new department. Is that-
Yeah, well, no, actually, this is to backfill a vacancy that was in the position. So Juanita has been with us for some time and she's gained experience in the election support department. And now is an opening in the absentee department due to someone who had left the
Yes.
position.
Okay.
So she saw the opportunity to kind of expand her opportunities to learn more and to work in that department. So it's a lateral move. She's moving from election support to the absentee department, which then will be creating an opening in the election support department, which will be posted as an opening.
All right. Thank you for the clarification, sir. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. The ayes have it. And thank you very much. And on to new business, Deputy Director Callaghan.
Okay. I wanted to give you a brief update on our transition move to 1803 Superior. Overall, things are going well. You know, there are some bumps with every move and some issues that still remain to be resolved, but we're making progress and staff is moving in. So for here, the transition and the information to candidates has gone out. While at the new 1803 location, we've had about 30 candidates come to either file or submit their petitions. We do have a redirect here that's very visible. We have the digital sign that's at the driveway. We have an A-frame sign over by the door. We have somebody stationed inside the entrance to give them a handout if they do get that far and they need some assistance. Also on our phone, IVR voice message system, the very first thing when you call the Board of Elections, you'll hear that we have moved to 1803, as well as our website, social media, and the press releases that were put out prior to that. The drop box has been moved from this location to Superior Avenue, and that's in position. We have some signage that will be put in place. The live stream will if they're working on installing that, but we're required to live stream during the election cycle. So we're outside of that now. So, but that will be in place for September and November and going forward. Our final department that's moving over is the poll worker department. So they have been busy working on proofing the payroll and making sure all that's in order. So they'll be moving over this week. In addition, the Agilis mail sorting machine that's over at the Halley building on the 5th floor will be prepared and moved over this week. We've been working hard to secure that area. The county has completed securing the doors. Today, the security company will be adding the access for Democrat and Republican both to scan in at the same time to be able to enter that area and just to tighten that down. And then the first week in June, we'll have our 10 OPEX machines, which are the letter openers that are used for processing vote by mail. Those will be moved over sometime in the first week or the beginning of June. Some of the issues that we had is in the main building, we had some water that was leaking from the roof. It appears as if that has been addressed, and we've had a good amount of rain last week, so we had a pretty good test with that. So unfortunately in the process, some of the tiles that were used when they brought the scissor lift, it was too heavy for that area and it crushed some of the tiles along the way. Those will have to be replaced. In the garage area, the conditioned space where we'll be processing vote by mail, that has been dried. So that has been addressed. I don't see any water coming in that area at this present time, and we hope going forward as well. The rest of the garage, there are some spots that they are still working on to resolve, but already it's vastly improved to what we had seen up until this point. I believe Director Perlotti referenced that in our last board meeting, that a lot of it was jetted out, and it seems like clearing those drains has worked successfully, but there is some areas that still need addressing, and we expect those to be addressed by the time the project is completed. So they're still working on it at this point. Security also last week was a big emphasis, was just as staff is moving over, making sure the card swipes for the Democrat and Republican is working, also keypads for seasonal workers and things like that. Also just for certain viewing, everything is recorded, but now we're that higher level of tightening things down. Some odds and ends also is the mailroom, our temporary mailroom operations is functional. However, this week we'll be working with the county to outline and show the final design of what that mailroom will be going forward. Things like blinds, the window blinds are going to be replaced, rekeying of file cabinets and many of the doors. The permanent signage, well, we do have temporary signage on the building, but permanent signage will be added, as well as permanent interior signage for guiding people through it. I will say, some people that I've seen in the hallway, candidates and others, just really loving the space, very happy. And you know, one thing too, they say, it looks great here, but they're always, the one gentleman I spoke with, he just says how our staff is always so friendly and working with candidates and so forth. He says other government workers, or agencies, sometimes you feel like they're doing you a favor for doing their job. Our staff is very accommodating with a great attitude with it. So that's always great to hear. The wiring in the early in-person vote area is still being conducted, but we have some time for that. Also, Root, the company that is installing the audio-visual equipment, they're working on that. We're anxious that our next board meeting will be there and all that equipment will be in place for that. As far as the May election, our poll worker department has been working vigorously. They got that payroll, they approved the payroll, and they sent the file to county fiscal. We expect to get the checks, the physical checks from the county either Thursday or Friday of this week. It takes our staff, they're going to approve those checks before they mail them out. So we would say by the end of this week, by Monday of next week at the latest, those checks should go in the mail. And, you know, if you get 3 or 4 days for them to get in the mail. So poll workers should expect to start getting their checks, hopefully by next week. So like I said, it's a good vibe. I think, you know, staff, we're glad to finally get in the building. You know, we've been talking about it for probably 2 years, if not more. And it's good to just finally get in and get settled in. And there's things that we're still figuring out, some stuff that's going to be adjusted, but a lot of smiling faces. Everybody's getting their steps in because it's a much longer distance. But like I said, our next board meeting is scheduled for June 10th, and that will be in our new 1803 location. I did receive a text message from Director Perlotti yesterday, sent me a picture of Santorini sunsets. He said, it's just as beautiful as we had described. But so all in all, that's a general report. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Any questions from the board?
I do have one. Do we have a plan B for the audio visual for the meeting in case?
Plan B would be our owl and that TV. But everything I've heard is they're pretty optimistic that it'll be in place. But we will be able to broadcast for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Deputy Director? Thank you, sir. The chair has not received any requests for public comment. There's been no request for executive session. So as we close out our last meeting here, thank you, staff. We're 38 years in this building, I think 1987.
Yeah.
So
the carpet was there.
when they move again, we'll all be retired. So good luck to the next group. But we thank you all for your work. And because this is our final meeting, I never use the gavel, but I'm going to gavel us out and declare the meeting adjourned. Have a good day.